welcome to our 15th. I almost went ahead of myself. Our 15th one-shot here. This is the shorter episode where our new format now is that we cover a certain comic book for this whole episode. For the past 2 months, we've been looking at Saga of a Doomed Universe issues 1 and 2, and now we are capping it off with Saga of a Doomed Universe issue 3. This is a story by Scott Reed where he has a meta character named Burt Colt who worked for this is Spark Notes to catch people up. He worked for a company called Saga Comics. They sold comics with tainted paper that were killing people. So they went out of business, and it was a big U.S. government cover-up, which now leads us to this. And in our comic story, remember there's 2 stories in one, our comic story, Dr. Nihilist wanted to take over the world and kill all the heroes with his giant destructo ray, he called it, that he was killing heroes from far. Eventually, the power got to his head. His girlfriend revolted against him, destroyed his plans. Now everyone's dying because the destructo ray is spreading this virus all over the world, and it's killing everyone. And at this point, Dr. Nihilist is kind of turning good, and he promised to save the world the last time we saw him, Ajax, when he was plummeting back down from space.
But will he make good on that promise?
Will he make good on that promise? We will soon find out. But when you open this book, Ajax, we're introduced to something new in this book that we haven't seen before. It is an image of Burt Colt, the man who's been talking to us through these little black panels throughout this book. We're seeing him and the panels all around him. And he is saying that this is what he didn't want to happen. He is inside one of his own books. And this is how he's going to finally tell you the story of what happened with Saga Comics. So now we cut back to our usual comic story. We have our hero here, Rich Brandon, our vigilante who has photographic memory. Remember last time we were with him, he was with 2 of the smartest superheroes in the world that were living underground who killed themselves because of the world ending. There was no way to solve it, so they said, you know what? We're going to kill ourselves, and that's what they both did. And now he's kind of panicking. He's like, all right, these were the 2 smartest guys in the world. All I can do is remember things. And now it's seemingly on me to save the world. If anyone's still alive, no one's doing anything to save the world. I kind of have to take this onto my own. So he's having a little bit of a panic attack here. Over now to Dr. Nihilist's headquarters. We see this man by the name of, what was his name? It's something Eye. Evil Eye.
Evil Eye.
Evil Eye. It's Evil Eye. Is Evil Eye the one with the visor or the one with the actual eye? He's the one with the actual eye, right?
Eye. Yeah.
The one with the visor. What is his name? They do say it later on, but we do see him here in It's the one that Dr. Nihilist has been controlling his mind because he's a super psychic.
It'll come back to me, but for the people that are listening, picture Evil Eye as if he's like the Neversoft Tony Hawk logo.
Literally. That's literally what he is. But on this page here, we do see that psychic with the visor, the one that Dr. Nihilist has been controlling because he can't let him... I mean, he's a psychic. Psychics are very powerful in comics. Don't let anyone tell you differently. They are the strongest characters in any comic. They can literally do anything. They can control your mind. And he knew that.
He's controlling him, Gabe, because he has this sort of like neurological dampening field.
Yes.
They mentioned that all throughout this book.
Yes, because he is the reason why there's a force field around this building, this evil headquarters, which seemingly I got the take that that's what's making sure these guys don't die.
Yeah.
Because it's killing everyone else outside but not them. And as this is where I actually really like this part here. This is I don't know if you caught this, but there's dialogue that's continuing on of their conversation with this villain. And as it's going on, we're seeing Burt Colt talk over this. And he's talking about some documents he got in the mail. But as he's talking to us, the bubble panels are the characters in the comic. And the last panel there, if you look, it's coming from the drawn pages that are in the... It's a comic book page in a comic book.
Yep.
So they're like talking as he's talking to us, which is super weird. But he talks about a document that comes in, and he says there's something in this document. He goes, it smells. There's a stench, and it's not that biodegradable poison from the comics. It's a stench of sweaty desperation. And he says he knows where this is from. This is from the president. It goes all the way up to the president. This whole cover-up, it goes up to the president. And you see him rip open this document, and the smoke comes out, and he's like, these bastards. I know who sent these. It's the final pages of the book. You know, the poison book that we've been hearing about.
Yep.
And it says here, and now I get to relive it right here in the comic book you're holding. They sent me everything, even the artwork, soaked with death. It's starting already. Exposed to air for the first time in 30 years, the paper begins the process of rapid deterioration and contamination. I'm a fool to have fallen for this. A fool. And if you look at the art in that binder, it's literally the 3 panels above it. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
That was like, whoa, that's kind of cool. So now we cut back here, and it's Nihilist on a table being worked on and researched at this place, which we find out is Darkstar. Remember in the last issue, he went to the Darkstar headquarters. He was trying to get all the power from it. He talks about he was experimented on. This is seemingly his backstory. We finally get to see what happens. He was tested on to the point he was basically useless to them, and they wanted to make him just another failed experiment, brainless droid that they have to use for war. And when he does that, something awakes in him, and you find out it is another villain that's there meeting up with him and basically gives him all his power and strength, and he promises this villain that he will pay him back for this. And I'm trying to see, does it say who the villain's name is here? I was trying to see if it would say it here, but I don't think they say it on this page. They do a little later on. Oh, Crone. It's that's who saves him and gives him all this power. And he promises Crone, when he dies, he'll be given his power as a repayment for giving him this gift of not being killed. And as we cut back now, we see the Pentagon, and this is where we see Evil Eye. Evil Eye's here with all the villains, and he's basically like, guys, relax, calm down. Can everyone please calm down? Everything's okay. And everyone's like, we're gonna die. This is a setup. We're all gonna die. This was a plan all along. Dr. Nihilus is gonna kill all of us after we did all his dirty work. That scumbag. We knew he would do this. And he's like, no, guys, listen to me. It's okay. And they're all basically like, shut up. Like,
you're like one of them calls him an asshole.
Yeah, they literally call him an asshole. And then after he says that, we see a woman walk out, and we find out it is Psionica from the last issue. Last time we saw her, she was getting attacked by these group of men who seemingly look like they beat her down, but they do say something. Remember last time we kind of made a guess of what happened with her because they were like trying to like pull her clothes off? Yep. They do say something here that kind of implies that something did happen. Something very disrespectful. They say, from the looks of her, her powers and everything else, she's all used up. Haw. And I was like, yikes. That is yikes. You know, that is a yikes from me. I also forgot to mention earlier. I skipped the page. I forgot. Psionica was found beaten down. So she was picked up by the villains and brought back. For people that were curious, I forgot to mention that. That's why she's here now. She was picked up after the attack. And now we cut back to Burt Colt, and now his building's on fire where he lives. He's picking up the papers, the poison papers, and the dialogue is still going from the regular comic, which I find cool again. And he's like, I know who sent this to me, and they knew this was poison. They knew what they were doing when they sent me these pages. They're trying to kill me. And he's like, but wait, I forgot. The New York Times offices are down the street. I can run to there and provide them with all this information and proof. Which in my head, I was like, why would you bring them this contaminated paper?
Right.
Like, I get bringing them
you put other people's lives at risk.
Yeah, like, that paper's contaminated. I know he's trying to bring the other one that he said was from the president. Like, the document carried proof of the paper being contaminated, all the death numbers, like, it being a cover-up. That's what he wants to bring with them, but now he's carrying all these pages with him as well, and it's mixing in with the other papers. So as he says that, his nose starts to bleed, and you're like, oh, shit. So he's starting to bite the dust a little bit here, maybe. And he says, but there's still time to bring justice to the dead. They also do some cool things in here, too, or a little earlier on, where I don't know if you noticed it, but like his dialogue will overlap with the comic book dialogue, like saying the
Yes.
same thing, which I thought was very cool. I was like, that's kind of cool. So it's like it's tying into the story at the same time. By the way, when I gave the synopsis of the stories earlier, I started noticing the similarities between both stories. About like people like burning and dying and all that. I'm like, oh, that's what was happening with the paper, you know? The paper that was going on and killing everyone, that's what the disease was in this comic book story. So it's very similar. So as Evil Eye is talking to all the villains, and he's like, guys, stay. Like, you guys are just paranoid. Like, just look around you guys. Don't worry. It's going to be okay. We're going to be saved. This is all going to work out. The only people that are out there left to die are the civilians. We're going to reign supreme. It's going to be great. You know that other guy that wanted that small island? I bet he still wants it because he's totally still alive. He's not, if you guys remember.
He's fucking dead.
He's dead. So he says it here, and he's like, and look at Psionica. What is she going to do? She doesn't even have powers. She can't stop us. And they're all just like, dude, fuck you. We're out of here. We're walking away. And then as he says that, people's eyes start bleeding, and you're like, oh, shit. Now the villains are dying again. And they're like, oh, no, it's a Destructo Ray again. And then some villains just start dying. And then Psionica says, listen, I didn't lose my powers. I just chose not to use them right now. I still have my powers. I just no longer have to keep them hidden. And she pulls...
Because she made that promise to Mass Champion.
She did. She did make that promise to him. And she pulled out. That explains why she was attacked, because she did make that promise. She didn't want to be exposed and found. But now that she's found, what's there to lose? He's dead. She's found. Who knows where Dr. Nihilist is? Fuck it. So she pulls out this metal thing from the wall and stabs Evil Eye in the eye. And then all the villains turn around and they're like, did y'all see that? Or did he just get stabbed in the head eye? And then she looks at them evilly and then sets off this giant burst of power energy. And then it looks like we get like a little bit of a backstory here of her and Mass Champion. Like a little... There's no dialogue with it besides Burt Colt talking over this, but from the images, it's like how Dr. Nihilist somewhat like saved her. We kind of got some images of it in issue 1, but this is like another view of it in giant panel issues. And what this page is basically talking about, it's Burt Colt talking about how much he loves comics growing up, how he got started in comics, how it was a dream come true, and then Saga Comics imploded, and it was just a nightmare. He was just miserable. He was left with nothing. And he says, never mind that my career was voided. The government spoke. Those bastards. Or, sorry, he says, those government spooks. Those bastards. They went further than that. Took my name, my social security number. In the mid-'70s, they even tried to take my memories. The stuff is called paranoia. What is this? Propanol. You guys know propanol, the drug? They tried to use that on him. And he says it actually worked, but only for a short while. He got his memories back. So this man has been through hell with this comic book company. He's had his memory wiped, seemingly. They've been trying to basically go after him. He's been almost in hiding so that they don't kill him like everybody else. And he says something like this can't be forgotten, and that's why he's going to be taking this to the New York Times. And as we're seeing in the comic book pages here, Psionica literally just imploded this entire building. All the villains are dead. She's the only one alive, and she's screaming Nihilist's name just like covered in blood. She's pissed. Duh. And as this is happening, Nihilist is talking, and he's like, I know I'm recording this message. You know, obviously you won't be able to hear this message, but I'm going to record it for you anyway. And he's talking about keeping his promise, and seemingly he's looking to do what he always sought out to do. And something he never expected to do was to stop himself. He needs to save the world because of what he started. And by doing that, he needs to kill himself, basically, and sacrifice himself for the greater good. And he says, I don't have much time left. And as he says that, so does Burt Colt on the same panel. Says, I don't have much time left. He's running out of his building. Both Nihilist and the man writing the book are sacrificing themselves for the greater good right now. Nihilist is colliding into the building. Burt Colt is running to the New York Times. As he's doing that, he tries to get two guys try to jump him. He fights them off because he's jacked. He's a bald jack dude like Mr. Clean. Fights them off. Stays alive. And now we're back with Rich Brannon, our hero that remembers everything, and he's standing at this giant computer. And in this giant computer, it has data, Ajax. It has basically the data for every science research in the entire world that's ever happened. It has all. It's Man-Mech's computer, the villain, or sorry, the hero that killed himself in the last issue. And he is planning to take in every piece of scientific information all within a few seconds. He knows it's going to bring him to his breaking point, but he wants to see how far he can go. So he starts, and his eyes turn all yellow, and he starts to take in every piece of scientific information to try to figure out how he can save the world. Back at Nihilus' headquarters here, we see our villain from earlier that saved Nihilus. What was his name again? Started with a K. There's so many villains in this. Crone. Crone is here with some other villains. And they're basically like, dude, where is Nihilus? He's like, I don't know. I haven't heard from him. He went up, and he was up there with Cerebrio. Both of them just have not been heard of since. And, of course, they're like, great. Two of the greatest minds in the world seemingly exploded, allegedly, literally, for us who know. They're like, great, what do we do now? Like, what do we do now? And at this point, we're seeing two stories happen at once, literally. Bart Cole is crawling up the stairs. His papers are all over the place. He's holding on for dear life. He says he has a revelation sinking into his gut feeling here. And as he says that, an explosion hits this headquarters with Dr. Nihilus. And who is it that crashes in? But Dr. Nihilus himself, Ajax. And he looks very cool here. He is like 90% cyborg, like 1% man, like just his mouth is human. And he comes crawling out of the fire just made of metal. And he collapses. And they're like, holy shit, like he's back. And as they find that out, we're sent over to another room here with Grim Gremlin, this little rat guy, with our homeboy, the Living Bomb. Remember, his goal, his plan was to, if people remember Nihilus' plan was, at the end of everything, we're going to drop Living Bomb on the world, and he's going to explode whatever. It's a new utopia for the villains.
Yep. They
told Grim Gremlin to keep him away. That's who the psychic told. He told Grim Gremlin, keep him away in this room, so that he doesn't blow shit up. And he's like, how do you feel about this power, Living Bomb? And he's like, power. It's so strong. I want to destroy it. And Grim Gremlin's like, stop thinking about it. I should have never asked. Don't think about anything else but blowing up, please. Don't blow up. I am here with you. Don't kill me. And then he's like, oh, what do you intend to do with the future? And he's like, I'm going to keep you as my in total servitude to me.
You idiot.
Yeah, he's like this evil little like gremlin dude. So, as they're doing that, he says, do you feel anything yet, Bomb? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, well, say something. And he's like, I feel power. Like, I feel a lot of power. And he's like, no, don't blow up. Don't blow up. He goes, it's so much power. I have to destroy it. And then we see him start to blow up, but we don't see anything else. Now back to Nihilus on the floor. All the villains are kind of crowding around, the ones that are left.
Is that the same panel where someone off screen goes, man, this is a clusterfuck?
Wait, where?
Where someone's blowing up.
Oh, I think is that this one?
There's a panel in this book where someone goes, man, this is a clusterfuck.
I think that might have been earlier with the villains before Psionica showed up. Yeah.
I thought it was at that moment, but okay, yeah, carry on.
And then all of like these villains, the ones that are remaining, crowd around him, and they're like, "Is he dead?" And they're like, "Well, he's gonna wish he's dead when he wakes up because we know what he's up to." That's what they think. They're like, "We know what he's up to. He's trying to kill all of us." And then some alien talks, and the dude goes, "Yeah, what he said. Let's kill him." And they go to pull him up from his armor, and they're like, "Stop! Like, don't touch him. Are you fucking dumb? Like, he has stuff in his suit where if you try to kill him, it'll kill you. He has like death-proof things in his suit. Don't touch him. Stop being so reckless." And then the explosion goes off, and the villains go, "Now what?" Like, there's so much shit going on. They're like, "Now what is going on?" And then that's when they look over and they're like, "Oh my god, it's Destructo Ray." They triggered a core meltdown in that room. And they're like, well, what does that mean? He goes, well, it means we run. We need to get out of here before this place explodes. So the next panel is just all the villains running and flying out of the building as fast as they can. And that's when he turns around. Crone turns around. And he looks at Nihilist. And brother, he's still moving. His head's lifting a little bit. He leaves him on the ground, and you see him leave him to die. The same man that saved him once upon a time now leaves him to die. Grim Gremlin says he lied. This isn't a neural dampening field bomb. All he says is this is, and then the explosion happens, and Nihilist's big N headquarters is left to dust. There's nothing there. It's completely gone. We get a look at all of the villains dying. It is the most gruesome, brutal, bloody, like melting deaths, just like the heroes, but for the villains. But there's one man left standing, Ajax. And it's our sidekick. The one that's been keeping this dampening field on. He's the only one left standing in this building. A little weird, don't you think?
Very strange.
And it's cool because, like, Burkholt's talking about all this, like, all the revelations of everything happening and all that, and he says here, but I need everyone to watch it go down in flames. And when he says that, you see everyone burning. I was like, it's a cool little story visual for what he's trying to describe. Next panel here, a little interesting. One of the Twin Towers is gone on this next panel here. I don't know if you caught that.
I did not catch that.
Do you see it? It's, yeah. One of the Twin Towers is completely gone. But now we see Rich Brandon, but he's not Rich Brandon anymore, man. He's turning back into a superhero, the Super Sleuth. He's becoming a hero, the hero, to save the world again. He's taking in so much information, and he's like, God, I'm losing it. And as he's looking through this, all the dead heroes are surrounding him. You would think to motivate him, but they're like, hey, stop, you idiot. Stop what you're doing. You're out of your league. Like this, you're not the hero. Stop it. I'm like, bro, they really came back from the dead just to bully him.
They're like, listen, bro, you're gonna fuck this up. Quit while you're ahead.
And then they say all this science talk about what this machine is. But then he explains it here in layman's terms. What he found in this giant machine of, scientific experiments, he found out there is a way to create what could be a hole in the universe to suck the universe away into nothingness. But there's a 50-50 chance it won't do that, and it'll undo everything that happened with Nihilist, and it'll save everyone that's still alive. It'll get rid of all of the overarching, what's it called? The energy, or whatever it's called, the poisonous gas that's flooding the planet. There's a 50-50 chance it'll either get rid of that or suck the world into a black hole. And basically what he's saying is, listen, I think I'm willing to take that chance. I think 50-50, that sounds like a good chance. And as he says that, we see Burt Colt, our writer of this book, absolutely burning to death on the steps of the New York Times. And similarly so, we're shown Nihilist burning in this building. He's still alive in the remains of this building. And we see the psychic, whose name is finally said, it's Future Glimpse. And he says, Future Glimpse, I should have known. You were the one behind this. He was basically playing coy the whole time. He thought he had Future Glimpse under his control, when in reality he didn't. He wanted all villains dead, all heroes dead, so that the world could be his. And he basically says, like, you're an idiot for thinking that you can control me. I played into your game, and I won, basically. He's playing chess when Nihilist is playing checkers. And now we're shown the remains here of Nihilist walking away. And he says, listen, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to kill everything in this world, including the threat of Dr. Nihilist. And he says, we are all defined by the choices we make, Damon. It is the only power you ever needed. And as they say that, you see Burt Colt just bleeding from every hole and sweat pour in his body, holding these papers for dear life, knowing that he holds the truth of Saga Comics being doomed. He wants to try to bring it to light of the government's involvement with this. And then we see Rich Brannon. He is just having a panic attack. He wants to do this. He really wants to do this. He really wants to take that bet. He says he wants to be in a world where the good guys always win. That's the world he wants, and he wants to be the hero that creates that. And then we see Psionica on the TV as this is all coming to a culmination. And she says, "Can you hear me? It's all over for you, Nihilist. It's over for all of us." She basically calls him out, says, "Listen, I know you're a coward. You're not the type of man I thought you were. I know you're hiding while this is happening." Meanwhile, she has no idea that he is risking his life, trying to die to save the world, showing that he has had some growth. And he does care for the world, and he has made mistakes. So he says he wants to let his actions speak more than his words. He's going to stop leaving these messages. He goes, the only choice he has to make now, and the only choice that you'll ever know, is sacrificing his body. And he literally explodes. But if you look at this, Ajax, when he explodes, he just explodes in this little poof.
Yeah.
It's just a little poof. Like, it doesn't do what he wants it to do. And then, this is where the book gets interesting. It says, this is Burt Cole talking to us, saying, Saga Comics publisher, he gave me free reign to the end of the story. The way I wanted to end it, the way I needed to end it. I figured none of it would have even seen print, and if it did, no one was buying it anyway. Until you bought this comic. And he talks to us. And then there's literally no dialogue for a couple panels, and we see the world looking normal. We see Psionica burying the body of Masked Champion. She writes, on the headstone here lies the champion of a doomed universe. She starts to walk away. She takes off her villain clothes, but as she's doing that, Masked Champion's clothes, kind of like a Venom symbiote, comes shooting out of the ground. And it kind of attaches to her naked body and forms around her. And she is looking like a new Masked Champion, taking the mantle of Masked Champion. And she's like, I need to bring hope to the world. So she flies to this like camp where it has all these military people and surviving humans. And she's like, listen, the Masked Champion you knew is gone, because everyone starts to recognize her. And she says, I've taken his place to do what I can to continue his work. And she asks, who's in charge here? And the army guy goes, I think you are. And she smiles, because now she's in charge of hopefully trying to save the world as well. And then it says here, this is where Burt Colt kind of fucks us over. He says, I think you're ready for the truth. Turns out I'm not the only one who had infiltrated this comic. The bastards, they found a way to douse these pages with the same poison that's killed me. I'm sorry. But I knew you wouldn't believe any of this unless I could prove it. Now you're contaminated too. I just hope to God that you can survive this poison long enough, that you won't disappear like I did, that you won't end up here with me. Not yet anyway. Not until you make right in the world. And as he's telling us that we are poisoned from reading this book, we see Rich Brannon press the button to hopefully stop Nihilist's powers. And what does he do, Ajax? He sucks the world into a black hole, killing the universe. So now, not only is the universe dead, but so are you after reading this book. Because now, you are the poisoned with the pages that have been explained to us for 3 months of how deadly they are, and supposedly the government got to these books too. And now we're fucked.
I'm going to inject a lethal dose of poison into Dark Star Enterprises.
That is a Saga of a Doomed Universe. The name of the book makes so much sense now. Knowing that the universe was not supposed to survive. Not only that, but the reader itself is not supposed to survive. So now, Ajax, even though you read it digitally, you are poisoned. What did you think, Ajax? A Saga of a Doomed Universe #3 or the series as a whole? What did you think? It was very meta. It was literally a book within a book that then came out and broke the fourth wall.
I'm going to say that I liked it overall.
Mm-hmm.
But there were times where I had a hard time. It had a hard time holding my attention at times.
Yeah. So that was my thing. So when I decided to go through this with you on these, it's because I read this book once. I read them as they came out. And I remember finishing book 3 and being like, I don't get what just happened. Like, I got the ending of the Burt Colt story. But when I was reading it back the second time, it clicked in my head. I was like, oh, that black explosion and him fading away, that's the Earth being sucked into a black hole. So it wasn't until I read it the second time, I was like, oh, the universe is dead. Like, that's when it clicked for me. But even reading it a second time, there is times where I want to see the dialogue for the actual comic story. And the black text that is supposed to be Burt Colt talking to you overshadows that. Like, it'll take over it, but it'll be like stuff that we don't need to know. Like, it's like random interviews to like build the world, I guess. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't make or break. You can skip those and not worry about what it was about. Like, there's one page in here specifically where it has an entire interview documented, but the interview is like cut off, so you can't even read the interview. You can't read the interview or the comic book right here behind it. So it's like this whole page just doesn't mean anything. The only thing that means something is here, because this is where it kind of breaks that fourth wall of the comic now talking through him, which was kind of crazy, you know? I think the concept's cool, like breaking that fourth wall. The concept's it's simple and easy. A government-run, covered, big scheme that happened, being covered by the government, of course, trying to be explained by someone that was involved in it. That's basically the story in a nutshell, you know? And then at the end of the day, he dies, and now the government poisoned the same comic book the way it did his. That's the story, in a nutshell.
I think the best way I can describe it is that I liked it, but I don't think it's something I'm going to revisit anytime soon.
No, and I only revisited it a year later because I felt like I needed to read it again to understand, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to wait a while, like let it sit. So like I said, this came out, I believe it was either 2022 or 2023. So it's been quite a bit since it came out. This was December of 2022. So it's been quite a bit. It's been over a year since this came out and this wrapped up. So I like it because it's different. There's literally I don't think I've had, besides Animal Man, that's like fourth wall breaking. I consider that more like a Deadpool fourth wall breaking. This is more like this is kind of like that, but there's never been a story where like the writer is taking over the book as you're trying to read the book to explain something serious to you that is like life or death threatening. You know what I mean? And in the end, you become a part of the story, which I think is cool.
Animal Man is something we'll probably have to visit one of these days, because I remember 100%. In Animal Man, he just turns around basically and he goes, "It's your fault." And then he exposes the writer.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's your fault. This is why like this shit's going on right now. It's all because of you. Like, you're like, the one writing the story.
Stop writing this.
And the whole tone of the book just changes after that. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Also, that's a great story piece too, because it's like he knows everything is going wrong because someone's controlling it. Like, how frustrating must that be? You know?
Yeah.
Like, everything wrong happens, like, because this motherfucker keeps writing shit. Like, stop. But I like this, too, because, like, at the end, it does make it feel like this book is a part of something more. Like, it feels like now you hold a book that, like, you shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, all those books he talks about for 3 issues, now all 3 of these books are a part of that, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, they were brought to life. And what's cool, this book was actually a Comixology exclusive book. It was actually a digital book first, and it wasn't until about a year and maybe a year and a half later that it was sold in physical form. I think it makes a lot more sense in physical form than it does if you were to read it on Comixology, due to that physical paper nature that it tries to push. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think so too.
It does make a lot more sense as a physical comic, but it is cool seeing digital comics that were digital only coming to life, because I love physical media. I think that's a great way to do it. Because now I got all 3 issues to keep forever, which is very cool to me. We got some cool variant covers out of it. Scott Reed, very unique mind. I will say that much. This is I wouldn't have been able to think of this story.
Oh, same. No way.
I will say this ending is pretty controversial online. I liked it. I always liked it. I thought it was cool. A lot of people said it fell flat. I could see where they mean for that. But I think it was a story of, we kind of knew where the story was going after issue 2. We knew Nihilus was going to try to stop this, so I kind of knew it was going to end. You know it has to end at some point. But I think like the black hole aspect was unexpected. I didn't think that would happen. You know?
I didn't hate the ending, but when I saw the ending,
it's like,
my
okay.
feeling was like, all right, time to read something else.
Yeah, it's very much like you read this book and you're like, all right, everything I just read just doesn't matter because it's all gone now.
I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna read something else.
The universe is gone now. So what's the point? Well, Ajax, there was a lot of like meta, maybe some confusing parts of this, that were here and there. So I was like, all right, next month we need to maybe reel it back, make it a little bit more relaxed, straightforward, simple,
Gabe,
not complicated.
Gabe, are you saying that because you come from a highly educated university that you have to dumb yourself down?
Absolutely. And when I'm thinking of comics that are dumbed down, easy to read, not a lot happening besides some explosions, I take myself back to the 90s, and I'm like, what writer and artist from the 90s really encapsulates that dumbed down, simple, not a lot happening, but still some fun imagery here or there? I think of Rob Liefeld, Ajax.
Yeah, I definitely think of Rob Liefeld as well.
So next month, we're going to be looking at the 2-issue miniseries, because who wants to write a third one? Why do 3? Just stop at 2, I guess. Granted, this does have multiple other stories, but we're only going to look at the first 2 by Rob Liefeld. His original hero, which was basically if he had time to write and draw Captain America, Fighting American! And yes, Ajax, this is a Fighting American action figure that they sold. Isn't it a beauty? It's so pretty. We are going to be reading Fighting American number 1 and 2, written and illustrated by Rob Liefeld. And it also is perfect with timing, man. We're going to be reviewing that a month before Deadpool. Let's talk about some Rob Liefeld stuff. You know what I mean? I will say, I really do want to cover a later story arc down the line because it's drawn completely on the inside by Ed McGuinness. Every interior page by Ed. And it's the Ed McGuinness art you're thinking of. It is that, like, over-the-top Superman and Batman, like, uber muscles, big jawline, like, big square jaw with the butt chin and big cartoony eyes. Very, like, Joe Mad era kind of stuff. You know what I mean? That's one we have to check out in the future, down the line. But why not start off with something fun, something peak 90s? And I will say, I looked through the art in this book. It's a lot better than Captain America because he actually had some time to do this and he cared about it, but it has the same aspects of Captain America. It has a similar design. It has a female young kid sidekick with blonde hair and big goggles, just like Captain America's Bucky in that Marvel run. Literally, he said, I'm going to copy and paste. That's it. So we're going to check that out. It's hopefully going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be, if it's not good, it's going to be fun to poke at for sure. That is no question.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, it's not a lot of meta crazy thinking. It's just like reading a 90s book, looking at the cool colors, and calling it a day, you know? Get a little palette reset, you know what I mean? But thank you, everyone, for listening to our one-shot. Remember, on issue 16 next month, we will be here with Drew, as me, him, and Ajax will be casting our own X-Men movie. We are still coming up with the guidelines for that for each of us, so it fits in a timely manner. Remember, there's no storyboards, there's no plot lines, there's nothing like that. We're just saying who's going to play our Jean Grey, who's going to play our Rogue, our Iceman, our Cyclops, Wolverine. That's it. And then we move on to the next person. So we hope you guys look forward to that. Ajax, I hope you look forward to that. I'm so happy to have you on again, buddy. I appreciate you every month.
Man, I'm always happy to do these. It's always a blast. We always have a lot of fun.
And I'm hoping that I'm exposing you to some interesting books. As you see, I like to read some obscure stuff from time to time. I like to throw it into the mix. Because comic books, I feel like, do have a formula now, and it gets, it could get old. And instead of saying, hey, comics are old and boring like some people do online and they complain and go, I'm not buying comics anymore, just look for other stuff that piques your interest. This, while it's not liked by a lot of people, it piqued my interest. And even reading it again, it piqued my interest again. I will say, I would like some Saga of a Doomed Universe toys. That'd be kind of cool. Like, of the theme 80s style figures. Maybe some Megos. That'd be kind of cool. Actually, in issue 2, they did have an ad for Saga figures, and there were Megos. And I'm like, can they make those for real? Like, that'd be kind of cool. I would buy those up. That'd be a very cool concept for these. Like, of the time. And I hope it's like, don't touch the packaging. You know, don't open the figures. Keep them in on card or you'll be poisoned. The plastic is poison. So, but thank you, everyone, for listening. We love you and appreciate you. Remember, go check out our card unboxing of Deathmate that we did. I still got the box here that we unboxed. Just full of doubles. Showing Ajax here, just full stock full of doubles. So you can see us go through each card. We did get some cool holographics, and you can see our disappointment as we see some of those cards. So look out for that, and we'll see you guys on the next issue. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you then.